Hi everyone, in this video I want to address travel FOMO and a lot of the misconceptions that surround this feeling of us missing out on all that we could be traveling when we're not traveling and we have a life based in a format without travel. For those of you new to this channel, my name is Vivian. I've been to 61 countries since the age of 5, and on this channel I share and discuss what the last 10 years of solo traveling have taught me. So I was recently talking to someone about how I traveled so much in my 20s that I didn't have a long-term relationship and I didn't learn that part of my 20s. Not that it necessarily would have happened, but that was definitely one of the sacrifices of being on the move. When I started this 7-year trip, I was packing up and moving every 2 to 4 nights. I was talking about basically my FOMO of missing out on having a stable long-term relationship, and they turned it on me and they said they and all their friends would admire me because they feel like they wasted their 20s in a relationship when they really actually wanted to be traveling. And they look at me with all of my memories and experiences from around the world across 5 continents, and they feel very jealous because now they see those serious relationships as a waste. I just want to remind you that not everyone had an accidental $100,000 when they turned 18. I made a separate video on that up here, but I think anyone can go travel if they want to. And so I just want to remind everyone that your 20s are about building skills and experiences. I think being in a serious long-term relationship or whatever you are doing, whatever friendships you were having and community you were immersing yourself in during your 20s wasn't necessarily traveling, but it's just as precious. Dating without moving around all around the world with an end date to everything, having a pet that you really love, that is your support, that you want to be there for, having parents and family to spend the holidays with, and then all of those together, having your significant other, pets, and family together on the holidays, on your birthdays, are irreplaceable. I wouldn't say that just because someone is taking pictures next to the Taj Mahal or next to Machu Picchu means that you wasted your 20s. The second thing I want to address about travel FOMO is the other side of things. I personally spent my 20s unhealthy, and very few people realize that. I looked healthy and I was hiking up to Everest Base Camp. I was learning how to surf and I looked like I was doing it all, and my chronic illness was invisible. But what was actually happening is that I was very anxious, and after an incident with a male surfer, I just took myself to therapy. Therapy made me believe in myself again and that I could answer my mysterious health problems. And then I started to take researching more seriously. I read everything I could, and as soon as I put my mind to figuring out what was wrong with me instead of believing everyone else telling me there was nothing wrong with me, I found the answer so fast. I couldn't even get through a book. In like the first half of the first book, I figured out and named my disease. What I ended up realizing in 10 years of solo travel was that I wasn't crazy. I was living with a serious and systemic disease. The solution to arriving at health with my condition is also a seriously expensive surgery. So it's not something that's going to happen overnight, but at least now I know what to do. Also, on the dark side of traveling is emotional burden of seeing a lot of mistreatment. This is something that has jaded me and increasingly bothered me as the last 10 years of traveling around the world have gone on. I've been to 34 of those 61 countries I mentioned by myself, and often abuse will be excused for culture, and that is something that makes my blood boil. Coming from the United States of America, I've seen far more mistreatment, particularly men to women, from increased alcoholism and a more rigid and traditional form of patriarchy in the societies that I've been immersed in. Other mistreatment that I had in my face over and over again that was very violent for me to see was the mistreatment of the environment. It's more in your face. When you're walking around India, you're trying to enjoy a nice hike and then you just see a pile of plastic. Sometimes it's shoved in the trunk of a tree. There's just no waste management system because many countries just don't have the capacity for it. You see a lot more pollution that's not covered up. You see a lot more animals in the street or damaged habitat. There's the mistreatment of travelers to locals, where travelers just go up and talk to the locals like they're very beneath them, scream in their face. I've seen racism at the air ticket counter at airports. I've seen just degradation and humiliation that someone serving tourists just has to put up with and pretend they didn't even hear to survive. And after so many years and seeing it so much, it really kind of builds up into emotional pain for me. The other thing is also mistreatment of locals to travelers. I've met travelers who have gotten scammed in unspeakable ways, but small things happen where you are seen as a walking ATM to many people, and the truth is you kind of are, and you just have to live with that discrepancy of tourists coming from a high value currency country, high power passport country, often to somewhere that's lower because there's more paradise or things are more accessible for us. Because of that privilege and that mismatch, there's always going to be people who are going to take what they can get to make a living, and that's led to a lot of mistreatment. So often the people that are most able to travel because they come from a strong currency country country or a strong passport country also have the most progressive gender equality mindset. You can experience a lot of cognitive dissonance when you're like living your dream and hiking your dream hike and going to the place you always dreamt of, but the society has like this almost palpable gender gap. The people serving you in one way are going to be more often from one gender, and how you might love the food of one person or the food of a country, but it's always done better by that gender because traditionally they're going to start the kids young to like condition them in their roles. So it can really embitter you, and you have to actively work on your mental health to remind yourself that it's not your fault. You can focus on the good or focus on the bad. So you got to choose every day to focus on the good, and that you can make a change. You can do anything you want with any day of your life. So you can make a change if you don't like something. Finally, having completely zero in your bank account is definitely not for everyone because there's so much stress and damage to your mental health from that. And that people watching back home or thinking that they're in this serious relationship or this serious job commitment that is taking over their 20s or any decade, wistfully thinking about just basing from wherever they want, often forget that so many people are doing it broke. Actually, you don't have to be traveling to be broke. There's a lot of information on how to handle that on the internet, but I think we often forget the side that people don't want to share, that if it's shared, it might get censored. I think we should make a list of what we're grateful for in our lives right now and not always just live for the future and have stressful thoughts about the future. As someone who has traveled, I'm so grateful for all the things that have happened, even though, like I said, I wasn't healthy for much of it. And I have my own FOMO about the other side of things. Like the most straight-laced life is often a fantasy now for me. Whatever you don't have, you're going to wonder how it would have been, but you still have to go through everything you're going through now to become who you are today, to even know that, and to have today that you can do anything with. The important thing is now that I know I'm unhealthy, what am I going to do? Now that you know you value traveling that much, what are you going to do? You don't have to do it by yourself. If you have a partner you love or you think you're in your 20s, there's a lot of information out there. And with the age of technology and information now, I don't think there's an excuse to not go out there and get exactly what you want.